Hey everyone, welcome to your restorative practice. Today we're going to focus on the upper back, upper spine, and then as it relates to the upper back and spine, you'll feel this probably, my guess would be in your shoulders, in your chest, because all of that tissue is very interconnected. And so the props that we will need today will be a couple of pillows, a couple of couch cushions, a stack of blankets. You can have these in varying quantities depending on how much height you want. I'll give you an idea of where we're going and how to gauge that in terms of our first long hold, our first setup. We're gonna rest our rib cage, the side of our rib cage, on one of our stacks of props. So you could watch me here for a moment. I'm gonna lay down on this prop. My rib cage is resting, my armpit and my arm is able to lay above it. And then I'm gonna place a prop for my head to rest on. So I'm gonna grab probably a couple of pillows so that my spine stays relatively neutral here. And so to kind of look like this, but with my head straight, or my spine straight rather. So depending on how much of a lift your spine or your rib cage can handle and how much is going to allow you to feel good and relax, find stillness, you might have to play with it a little bit in your body. Okay, so we'll take some time to adjust and set up, but choosing a side to rest on, we're going to do both sides, so it really doesn't matter which side you start with. I'm going to start out laying down on my right rib cage. Again, it's like I'm trying to find this little valley in between props for my arm to rest closer to the floor onto. And so you could think of this as like a very supported fetal position. Now, as I lay my head down here, I don't feel any pulling on my neck. So this feels like a good place for me to rest. And you can figure that out in your own body. Whatever you want to do with your legs, you can bend your knees, you can stretch them out straight. We're really kind of focusing on the upper body for this first part of class. So make sure that your spine, your neck, your shoulders, your chest, your rib cage feel relatively at ease, and there will be some sensation most likely. There might not be a lot of sensation, but that's okay too. In our restorative practice, we're not always seeking a lot of sensation. So start to settle in. If you're just grabbing your props now, this supported fetal position, something underneath your rib cage, something underneath your side of the head that you're laying on, so that your spine stays pretty neutral. And we'll start off there. I'm going to grab a timer as you settle in, and then I'll give you some options to add on to this shape. The one other thing I would say that you could add to this shape would be something in between the knees if you really want to make it super, super soft and super supported through the whole body. Sometimes knees can be bony, and you know, having them kind of knock into one another doesn't always feel great. So check that out, see what your body needs, see what would be helpful, and start to find that stillness. I'll spend about 3 minutes on this first side. I'm spending the first few moments here just settling in, finding that place of stillness. This top arm, wherever you want to rest it, you can rest it on the hip, you can rest it in front of the chest. You can close your eyes if you want. Check in with the neck. Does it need anything different in terms of props, adjusting the head so that the neck feels supported and relaxed? Getting really heavy in your upper body and your rib cage. And then start to let the breathing take over. Maybe that means the inhale and the exhale get a little bit longer and slower. If you're finding this really comfortable and soothing, feel free to stay here, right here. You don't have to add any movement. If you want to explore some range of motion in the top shoulder, you can sweep your top arm up and overhead, and the elbow can bend, the fingertips can rest above the head. Maybe it's on the mat, maybe there's another prop there for you. So you're really breathing into that top armpit and top rib cage that's facing the ceiling in this variation. And that can be a little pinchy on some shoulders. So if it's pinchy on your shoulders, just opt out of it. If you're able to relax in this position, if it feels good, feel free to stay. One other option would be to kind of move that arm through space. So you could sweep it back down towards the hip, and then you could sweep it back up and overhead if you want to experience both. If you're choosing that movement, make sure you're going nice and slow, almost like your arm's moving through something tangible like honey or water. Wherever you are, let's take one more breath. Feel free to stay here longer if you want to, if it's feeling good. We're going to progressively add on to this shape if you want to come along with me. For this next step, you're going to want to make sure that we're going to roll a little bit onto our back. You want to make sure that you're in the center of your prop so that the whole width of your thoracic spine, your rib cage, is supported on your prop, including the back of your head. So rolling a little bit, maybe like 45-degree angle, chest towards the ceiling, a little bit onto your back, not all the way. That top arm's going to sweep up and overhead, but this time it's going to circle back behind you like you're doing a backstroke in a swimming pool. And then down towards the hip, and then up and overhead, and then swim that arm back behind you. And so just continue making this circular shape with that top arm. You need to adjust your props so that the back and the back of the head are supported by your props. Do that. And then join me when you're ready. One more time around with that arm circle. And then we'll take that top arm all the way off to the side. So like as if you were extended through your backstroke and you were just going to hang out on your back for a little bit with the hips not moving, but the chest opening towards the ceiling. So basically you're in a twist, right? That the chest is opening towards the ceiling, arms are spreading wide like a big capital T shape. But this top arm, or what was the top arm, it doesn't need to reach the floor. It might be kind of floating in space. There might be a lot of sensation happening across the top side of your chest, the top side of your shoulder. And so let that be true. Unless it's sharp shooting pain, then you want to back out of that. The back of my head's pretty much all the way resting on the prop that's underneath my head. Let's take 3 more breaths here. And then with our props in place, we're just going to simply roll all the way onto our back. So knees will start to point up towards the ceiling. You'll come all the way to the back of your pelvis. Your choice what you want to do with the legs. As usual, you can keep the knees bent, feet planted, or you can stretch the legs out. Arms are spread wide, that big capital T. Upper body is kind of staying the same. It's just that we're rotating the pelvis to face the ceiling now. You can think of this as like a supported fish pose if you're familiar with that shape in a vinyasa practice. Basically, you're just elevating your rib cage and supporting the back of your head with a prop. We'll spend about a minute here. If the intensity of the props underneath the ribcage is too much, or same thing for the back of the head, feel free to adjust. You can take away some props. Settle back into the breath, finding that stillness. Maybe closing the eyes if you like. Let's take 3 more breaths here. And then you can start to, if you stretch your legs out, bend the knees and plant the feet, and then roll onto your second side. You don't need to rearrange any of your props if you don't want to. You can just simply find that fetal, that supported fetal position on your second side. Okay. And then if the second side needs any additional props or something different, feel free to take your time to set that up. I'm just simply moving my props to the other side so that I can continue to face you, but you don't need to do that unless you really want to see and face me. All right, so we'll settle down here in this supported fetal position. And we'll take some time here to just find that restful place. Align the neck in a neutral position so the chin isn't jutting up, the head's not falling way below the neckline. The spine's relatively straight. Top arm, just rest it anywhere that's comfortable, on the top hip or in front of the chest if you like. Let's take a few moments here to settle. I will give you the option to add on some range of motion, some movement, but let's settle here first. Maybe close your eyes. And just like before, feel free to stay in this fetal position, especially if you're feeling really relaxed, getting heavy, breath is slowing down. Stay. If you want to explore that range of motion with that top shoulder and arm, you can sweep it up and overhead. Bicep kind of comes alongside the ear, maybe the fingertips rest overhead. They might touch the ground, they might not. You could also rest your hand on a prop above your head if the floor feels really far away. And then if that's pinchy at all on the shoulder, just like on the first side, feel free to skip this altogether, or you can move in and out of that arm overhead. So hand can come back down to the hip and then sweep back up and overhead. And you can take that super, super slow, is what I'd recommend. Keep it slow. Either way, we'll spend about 3 minutes on this side. Do your best to deepen your breath. Relax your neck, your jaw, relax your shoulder. Always that option to close the eyes. Have about 3 more breath cycles in your current position. And then I'll give you the option to progress. All right, so now we're gonna, if you want to, you can continue staying in this supported fetal position, but if you want to come along with me, there's that 45-degree-ish rotation of the top of the chest towards the ceiling, and we'll start to do those big arm circles. So it's like you're backstroking through a pool with just one arm. That top arm reaches up and overhead, it swims back behind you, and then moves down towards the hip, and then you just continue with that circular motion. Really, really slow. Again, you could visualize something that you're moving your arm through, like maybe water's a helpful visual, or maybe it's like honey, something kind of thick where there's some resistance. And I might notice that there are some places in this rotation where maybe the shoulder kind of feels like it pops a little bit, or there's some sound or some sensation in particular spots of this range of motion. Actually, you're just getting to know your shoulder joint and what's going on in there, what it feels like. And then we'll pause. I'll give you the option if you want to pause. You can a little bit roll a little bit more towards the back of the spine, a little bit more towards the back of the head, keeping your hips in that twist, just opening up through the chest, stretching the arms wide in a big capital T shape. We're not going to be here super long, so find your breath, breathe into your sensation, as long as it's not sharp and shooting pain. Take 3 more breaths here. And then option to roll all the way onto the back, just like we did before. Make sure that your prop is supporting the whole width of the rib cage and the entirety of the back of the head. And if you want to or need to adjust any of your props to make that possible and comfortable, please feel free to do so. We're going to be here for about a minute, so a shortish hold. Because the rib cage is so expansive right now, the belly open, you might try to send your breath deeper into the belly. See how that feels. Take 3 more breaths here. And then these last few moments here, if you'd like, you could reach your arms up and overhead so the rib cage is rainbowing over your prop, stretching from fingertips to toes, biceps framing out the ears. Big, big stretch through the whole length of the body. If your legs are stretched out long, bend your knees. Take your time with this. We're going to get off of that bolster. You can do that by rolling off to a side and very gently pressing up off of your props. We'll move those out of the way. And what I think might feel nice, and you can decide this in your own body, is taking these props and sliding them underneath the backs of the knees or backs of the calves. So we create a little bit of an inversion, a very gentle inversion. You could certainly take your legs up the wall or drape them over the back of a chair if that's something that you prefer. And so just elevating the legs in some way, whether it be backs of the knees get a lift or the calves or the whole leg in its entirety. Coming back down onto the back when you're ready with your props. And settling in here. Whatever you want to do with your arms, you can stretch them out wide. You could take one hand to the rib cage and one hand to the belly. Start to settle back into the breath. Relax your jaw here if you like. If you haven't done so yet, you could close your eyes. From this shape, and you might already feel like you're sinking into your Shavasana. We will transition into Shavasana. And so for me, I'm going to stay as I currently am. But if you would like to add any props or remove any props or change anything for your final Shavasana, we'll start to make that either a mental or a physical transition. A good 3 minutes today for Shavasana. Once we come out of Shavasana, I'll invite you to sit up. We'll do our 4-3-7 ratio breathing for 3 rounds, and then we'll close out our practice. Deep breath in through your nose. Open your mouth, exhale the air out. Feel your back teeth part. Feel your tongue widen at the base of your mouth. Relax your gums, relax your teeth. Relax your lips. Soften the flesh around the eyes. Let it go, let it rest. Shavasana. Please feel free to stay longer in your Shavasana. If you need to move on with your day, begin to add a little bit of movement to fingertips and toes. You can move your head side to side. Stretch your arms overhead one more time, breathing into the length of your body. When you're ready, rolling off to a side through fetal position. Pressing up to a final seated position for our 3 rounds of breath, pranayama. 4 counts for inhale, 3 counts to retain the breath at the top, and 7 counts to exhale. And that's going to be at your own pace. Okay, so let's settle into our seat, grow tall through the spine, breathe in, let all the air out, and begin to count your breath on your own when you're ready. It's 4 counts for your inhale, 3 counts to pause at the top, 7 counts to exhale. Two more times. The next time you exhale, let go of any counting. Allow your breath to just come back to neutral without any control. If you'd like to join me in closing out your practice, you could bring your hands together at the heart and bow the chin into the chest with reverence and gratitude. May we use the fruits of this practice to serve our highest good, share it with those around us that we love and who could use healing. And remember to send love and healing to all sentient beings around the world. May they be happy. May they be free. Namaste. Thank you so much for being with me today, everyone. I hope you enjoyed your practice, and I hope you come back again soon. Take care.